Hello and welcome back, my beautiful friends, or welcome if you're new. Today I am going to be potting up all of these propagations that I got from one of my Monstera adensonii that was not doing very well. So instead of letting it die, I decided to cut it up, propagate it, and then eventually repot it, which is what we're doing today. And I'm very excited. I've been waiting months for this. I didn't intend to make this so long of a process, but here we are a month later. As you can see, there's a lot of root growth. I can't tell if you can see that, but once I pull the these little guys out of the pots, you'll be able to see how much roots have actually grown in. So yeah, I'm not going to be talking throughout this video because there's just too much noise outside, so I'm going to voice over and teach you how I do it. If you can hear any rain, it's because I live in South Florida and it never really stops raining. But my Monstera adensonii has been outside and it has been loving the rain and the high humidity. The leaves are looking green and luscious, and the roots have come in incredibly well. They're whitish, yellowish, and healthy, and there's so many of them. And that's the one I had in sphagnum, and this is the one I had simply growing in water. So here I have my plant's favorite worm castings. Yeah, and I love to use this all the time because it really just keeps my plants well nourished all year round. And this is Kellogg potting mix, which I use quite often. It's currently wet right now, but it's usually a lot fluffier than this, but this is what I'll be using. I also have 3 different size pots. These are about 6-inch pots, I believe, and the other one is about 6.5, I think it was. This is my buck knife in case I need to cut anything. And yeah, so I was trying to show you here that these pots came plugged with that black thing, so I had to just pop it out. I did not want a repeat of last time, which caused my plant to rot. So I needed to ensure that I had proper drainage. So to this first pot, I'm just gonna add some of that potting mix, and I'm gonna add about 1.5 inches or 2 inches, and then I'm gonna add in some of the worm castings and mix it in together quite thoroughly. So once that's mixed in, I just kind of make like a little divot in the middle, and that is where I'm gonna place the plant. So I'm starting off with this one, which was growing in water. And just look at how incredible those roots are. It has just grown so much. And I told you, you really could just leave them in water and they do quite well. So since it took the shape of the container it was in, I'm gonna have to loosen the roots and just cut these 2 yellowing leaves off because yeah, once they turn yellow, they're not gonna go back to green, so there's no point in keeping them. So just gonna cut those off, and always remember to sterilize your equipment with rubbing alcohol. I was so proud of myself. Okay, so yeah, here you just see me gently trying to loosen up the roots just so that, you know, they aren't so compact, and to make it easier for the plant to spread the roots out once it's settled in. So that's about good enough. I don't need to completely loosen them up. And I'm just going to place it right in the middle where that little divot was. But you can't see it from here, but on the other side, the plant is still quite bald looking. So most of the growth is on one side. So I decided to repeat the process in order to add 2 of the propagations into one pot in order to ensure that when the plant starts to grow, it's going to be very full and very luscious, which is exactly what I like. So here's the other propagation. This was the sphagnum moss. As you can see, the roots grew in quite well as well, and they're nice and healthy. And before I put in the pot, I'm just going to remove a lot of that sphagnum. It doesn't have to be necessarily all of it, but a lot of it. And here's trying to show you that we have some new growth. So that's eventually going to be a new stem and a new beautiful leaf. So it can be quite difficult to remove some of the sphagnum, which is one of the cons, I would say, of using sphagnum. But I'd say that was about enough. You didn't have to get rid of everything, like I said. And there, you can see that once they're together, the plant looks a lot fuller. So I'm going to point one of the propagations to one side and the other to the other side, since they're both kind of pointing in different ways. And then once they're together, they're just going to be incredibly full. So I grab the leaves gently, of course, up like you're going to tie like a ponytail, like your hair. And I'm just going to add a little bit more of the worm castings. And now I'm going to repeat the same process with the potting mix, and I'm going to make sure that I get into like the nooks and crannies of the stems, because from your point of view, it does look like everything is, you know, full of the potting mix, but actually there's a lot of places like where there's a lot of gaps. So you just want to make sure you fill that in, and make sure to leave at least a centimeter of two of space, as in don't fill the pot all the way up. And here we have it. Look how beautiful and full the plant is. I am so happy, and it's looking a lot better than it was a few months ago. And as you can see, I was just trying to show you that there's a lot of plugs, which is basically like each leaf, each stem is what you would call a plug. So as that plant grows, it's gonna be incredibly full, which is exactly what I like. I don't really like it when plants like pothos or monsteras are kind of like thin looking, if you if you know what I mean, like when they're not full. I don't know, it kind of creeps me out, if I'm honest. So here you see that this one has grown so much that it's actually started trailing already, and it had an aerial root. But since that part is just going to be hanging out of the pot, I just decided to cut it. And this one was also in sphagnum moss, and the roots are looking healthy as well. And I'm going to repeat that process of just sphagnum moss removal. So I'm basically going to repeat the same process I did before, in which I combined more than one set of propagations just to, again, ensure that the plant is nice and full, which clearly I really like because I keep repeating the same thing. I loosen these roots up a bit, put them in side by side. Since I still have this tiny group of leaves, I wanted to add it in as well because there's still some space in there. It's not going to be too full. And this one was also in sphagnum, and it's looking beautiful as well. So again, going through the sphagnum removal process, and I'm gonna add that third bit in that gap that's left over. But you always want to make sure that there still is enough space to put your propagations in the pot. You don't want to overcrowd the pot and cause an issue, because once the roots get established, they're just gonna get pot bound too quickly, and then you're gonna have to be watering them a lot. There you go. So now all three are in, and this plant is looking incredible. So we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to add some of the worm castings and the potting mix all the way around, making sure you get in the nooks and crannies, and you always want to make sure that you don't overfill the pot, because then everything's going to come spilling out when you water your plant. So here you have it. Look how beautiful they're looking. You see, this is a simple way of just helping out a plant that wasn't doing quite well, or even if your plant was doing beautifully. It's a wonderful way to expand your plant collection without having to constantly spend a lot of money. You know, this is just a hobby. Nobody needs to go broke because of this, and it's also a lot of fun, and it's quite relaxing. So I think there's a lot of benefits to this process. So here I'm just showing you that I am watering the plants, because whenever you repot or add your propagations to soil, you always want to water your plant. And for a couple of days I just kept the soil moist in order to ease that transition from water to soil. So that was the process, quite simple and easy, and absolutely anybody can do it. Bye. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.